eyes peeled, because more and more Skin and Bones and the TPO1 regime's family, courtesy of Boneyard and Bizzy Bone Entertainment, Seventh Sign Generation is making their presence felt and are very renowned because we've been behind the scenes. I've dealt with Elion, the Elion and Nino, Seventh Sign era, From Your Righteousness, I mean, this literally put it out there. There was a $75,000 offer that I lined up, courtesy of a conglomerate. That was turned down. So, I mean, I say this stuff to say that it's a jealousy thing, I think, that infects sometimes our Bone Thug community. So I hear a lot of people dissing. I got hit hard because I defended Flames before he was ousted. Once he made himself blackball himself by just going on raves and rants. First of all, I just want to say this to artists as well that are in the family. I feel for any affiliate that feels like he hasn't got his proper treatment, because the one knows that I've gone through that as well. But it's hard work. Shouts out to Young Jig and Nina Ross again for the hard work. You got to think people like that work behind the scenes to communicate with you, the fans, and the supporters on what's going on. Because I'm telling you right now, if you people don't have 10 stacks, 15, 20 stacks, unless you know someone who knows someone, Bone is not going to do anything with you. And it makes complete and total sense because it's about dollars and feeding family. It does not mean they don't appreciate the fandom and the support. Even myself, I have to pay to play on certain levels. And that's just how it is. So, I mean, all this and that talk about affiliates are people who put in work and support, and they get these blessings because of that. And so this is what I've done. I worked 10 years, almost 11 years in the music industry game, where I've made alliances with people like Mr. Servon, Wu-Tang affiliate family members such as G. Clef, P. Rebel. And if you don't know the business, you wouldn't know any of these names. So that should show you how deep the foxhole runs. So all I can say is people like Nuthouse or Nutwise, whatever his name is, people that in our circles, we know that those kind of people don't even listen to Thug and Harmony music. So why would you pay attention to people that don't even support the group that you say you love? I read your messages, your forum posts, all over, all 3 forum posts, sites I read, and I'm there. I've been gone for a while because I've just recently had a yalid or a child, so I'm very much about my grown man. And I've been in the studio. We put away 35 tracks, in the last couple months. So the Coast to Coast DJs presents the new Notorious Thug Star, Coast to Coast Volume 2, Thug in 2099. It's coming to y'all, freshly remodeled, remastered Thug in 2099. You see the different people that we deal with and we work with, so it's impossible to be a fraud. But yet and still you embrace all these other affiliates. They don't drop anything. Song here, a song there, and Dre Ghost, who was a very, very big visionary, who's been down with Bone from day one. You don't show him the love he deserves. Oh, you treat him half decent. This is a man that's a powerhouse engine behind the whole Bone Thug ideal, And I will say this stuff because I'm a renegade. I don't care what anyone thinks. I'm going to continue to Thug in Harmony. It's a way of life. It's a lifestyle, It comes out of the same era as Eazy-E and Tupac, Machiavelli, Shakur. So, if people don't like the fact that Skin and Bones is actually here for the fans, because, it was Bizzy Bone who inspired and taught Double R, these people who I learned from, especially Dracos, how to deal with you people, how to treat you like individuals when you don't even know how to treat yourself. And we're talking even on just a music level. So if you don't like the way I talk or I sound too make-believe, that's a personal problem. But the fact is we're here for you. We're here to give you that thuggish, rugged sound. And that's all we care about. You guys keep talking about how you want to hear more the old school Bone sound. You don't even give the affiliates a chance to show you what they have. I've seen Malky and the Taste Balls, and the brothers and sisters haven't even heard his music. And you're cutting him down, and he's made all these big connects with all these major artists. And Bizzy Bone's co-signed him, and you still don't show him no love. So if you're not going to show Tay Smalls love, who Lord knows it took Ugobs of money to do that in favor for favors, then you definitely won't have no love for Skin and Bones, who's been running the gauntlet for some time now. I never said I knew lazy, crazy, wish, or flesh. I've never proclaimed to talk to these people. I've always stuck to the lakes and the rivers that I'm used to. I always talk to people that put me there. You know, so from Thug Queen to Scale to J-Mac to Chico, you ask them who Deals is, because, you know, that's the alias. You ask them who Deals is, they know who he is, you know. And so you ask Baby Phil, you ask Josiah, they know who Deals is. You ask Nina Ross. So how is it that all the family members in Bone, former and current, know who Skin and Bones is, but you don't? The problem is that you're not researching, and you don't care. You just want to hickory and bicker. But nevertheless, I'm still thugging in harmony, and I'm still going to love y'all the same. And like I said, that's what it's all about. You can Google Skin and Bones with a dollar sign, put Bone Thug next to it, and all the information will pop up before your eyes. ThugNation1Radio.net, .com, ThugNation1Radio.ning.com. We've got so many different outlets. That's our personal one, sponsored by Seven Sign and Boneyard. So for that, as far as that particular question, that's the best way I can summarize it up, is that people are listening to the wrong sources. And there's nothing wrong with controversy, because it does sell. But when it's out of forms that are supposed to have love for a group that they admire so, and these affiliates, all I hear is, oh, we don't like the affiliates. Well, it's a part of Bone Thug. It's a part of the family tree. You still step on people who don't even make music out of the family anymore, wishing they would come back. So all we can say is give us a fair chance, give us a fair shot. As we drop these projects, do exposés, give us your results, tell us what you did and didn't like. But don't hate before you have a chance to participate.
And you have an upcoming project, I think it's, or I don't know if it's out yet, it's called From Your Righteousness.
Yeah.
Definitely. That was like the original title for like I think it was a online Bizzy Bone album. Were you
No
there?
doubt, definitely.
Yeah. Were you there during the like studio sessions or anything of that
Well,
nature?
yeah, the beautiful thing about that, Mr. Eric, is that, you know, as I said earlier, I came in around '05. Well, I've been down, like I said, since '03, but I really wasn't on a mission to really link up. I mean, the whole time I've been in contact with Double R's and, you know, how do you recognize Rick Robinson? And, you know, during that time, business-wise, he was a really good brother, you know. He's inspirational. And, you know, we were supposed to be dropping something to him in association at one point. But things still through to a point to where we, you know, stay on the up and up on a brotherhood level. Well, you know, there's a lot of, well, we would call it cock blocking, I guess, or squeeze out sometimes in the family tree. People want to get their little say or be close as they can instead of just working their own stuff. And, you know, I've never been that kind of person. I've always wanted to get to the source. So when we ran across Eliano Nino, who was running Seven Sign at the time, for Bizzy, running all of his operations, this just so happened to be around the time that you guys experienced Speaking in Tongues, Only One for the Fans, The Bone Brothers, Volume 1. All this was in the same era. All this was between '04 and '05. Not to mention the notorious and unforgettable Song for You in its present and former form, in association with, of course, From Your Righteousness, which started out as For Your Righteousness. So during this time, the songs had already been recorded, and the single had been dropped, Righteousness. When we touched down in Columbus, I had a cousin out there, and me and my ex-wife stayed there. And we got a chance to get up with Elion and brothers, Josiah and Baby Phil. And keep in mind, the funny thing about that is Baby Phil and I at the time didn't talk a lot. So it's ironic and strange how in the future Baby Phil and I would become very close. And I got nothing but love for that brother because he's very sincere and pure of heart. Josiah and I, we had no problems. I always admired his spirituality, and I feel like he's the perfect candidate to continue to represent the original Seven Sign. I just wish that he would somehow find himself some distribution for y'all because he deserves to be paid for what he does. But he's on the righteousness, so nothing but love for that brother as well. So, but anyway, yeah, so we getting up there, and we did some tracks. You know, they knew me as Doctrino, because I had many aliases kind of on that Wu tip. So they knew me as Doctrino. That's the name I was using at the time. But you got to understand, I've had Skin and Bones so far, but I would not use that name until I was official, until I was cleared. But all this stuff was premeditated and already envisioned. You have to set goals for yourself. You have to know who you are. So I did. I used a lot of different dummy names, different phases I was going through, just like the Band-Aid Boys and so forth and so on, Bone Enterprise before it was what it was. So, everybody has a beginning stage. So we got up there, and I never will forget, I wanted them to go ahead, and I didn't realize at the time just how easygoing they were, because I had a clearance sheet I wanted them to sign. It wasn't nothing major, just says you have permission to use these tracks. But they were so, intimate about it that they didn't even care about that. They were like, it's no problem. It's not to sign. It's no big deal. I'm like, wow, So they weren't even tripping, And it kind of almost freaked me out in a sense because, you have a certain vision going in. But, early on, to be honest with you, was the most more coordinated person when it comes to the business, and I can understand why Bizzy worked with him so closely because there were things that he just knew. At the same time, all these things were taking place, and, this is how the Power of One truly began, what Joe now knows as the Power of One Machine family. Well, if you can remember Murder, Inc., and if you guys are familiar with hip-hop, you know that Murder, Inc. actually consisted of Ja Rule, DMX, and Jay-Z, and Irv Gotti as producer, with Def Jam subsidiarizing that entity. It never happened. So it ended up being Ja Rule, Irv Gotti, and then they began to A&R other artists from their neighborhoods, so forth and so on. And this is how the Power of One came about. It was the last actual, I myself is probably one of the last people to actually deal with the seven before their initial splitter. So, Elion and I, while he was still Seven signed, because he was going through a lot of things with his personal company, Free Age Music, he couldn't really decide how he wanted to jump it off. There were so many different ideals that he had. He was doing so much, man. I seen the workload on the brother, So I tried to help, while, of course, trying to conglomerize, the oneness movement, because it was, something big that B was inspiring us all to do. And you got to keep in mind, when I met B back in '03, I was just a young mobster out there doing my thug thizzle, and I was starstruck to a degree. I didn't even have it in my mind to even be down like that. Just to see the brother and be around him was kind of, and I would ask questions like, what happened with the gift cover? And he's like, man, I did that on the computer. Just different things like that. That's the kind of response you get, hanging out with your side for the first time and seeing them and things. Rick, made them respect me because I was the street team in that particular show that they did. It was a show in Indiana. So going back to saying that to say that there was really no need for me to completely just talk to Bizzy during those times. I've already been familiar with him. But, of course, they remembered me as a dude that wowed out over Capo's death. You see what I'm saying? Not really understanding that, this wasn't someone that just was, this is not just a dude that's sipping, drinks with us up in the VIP. This is someone that's really about the streets and is inspired by the street stories. So, when we finally, like I said, being there in '05, fast forwarding back to the story, we put some tracks down. We did some things, and I continued to try to get a good project for him. I wanted Elion to have a commercial project that was going to really shine because he had a lot of good talent. And, the whole ideal of From Your Righteousness, the Next Generation of Minister 2099 is that, there was so much cutthroat and backstabbing. And think about it, people don't realize Bizzy didn't even want to do the album. One thing that I found out while being in the circle was Bizzy didn't even want to do the album, in fact. But that's the thing about B that I admire from a distance is that it takes something to make it into something more because of the sincerity. And that's what we all learned to do, was to take righteousness and apply that. So what I've said in plenty of blogs is that from your righteousness is a state of mind. It's a backdrop to spirituality in the new world and in the world of 2099, which is like on some Matrix type stuff, you feel me? Everything's slow or sped up, you know what I mean? So all that was just a continuation of what he was trying to get the fans and everybody to understand. The spiritual transfiguration, you know what I'm saying, or street transfiguration even. So, being around that and being inspired, the oneness movement bore, the Power of One. And when we did that, everybody represented the one. Y'all know how we say it, how we put it out there. On the one we ride, there's only one truth.